I just got my hands on the new Uemura Unlimited Glow Foundation and I have been so excited. So I've been testing out for a few days. So maybe it's good also for me to share how I go about testing my foundations before I make a video about it. I would normally get a new foundation and the first few days I would be trying it on half my face and comparing against some of my recent foundations so that I could make a comparison which one works better, because in my foundation reviews, or I believe in all ratings in this world, is actually relative, right? So for example, if I gave a foundation a coverage of 8 and this foundation has a higher coverage, then it would get a 9, right? I have not given any foundations a 10 out of 10 rating because I think that would just means that you covered every part of your face and there's nothing left to conceal. It's just 100% coverage. I haven't met a foundation like that yet, not even with the Estee Lauder Double Wear foundation. So that's how I rate my foundations. It's relative. It is in comparison to my existing foundations, whether it is, for example, more cakey or it smooths the pores better than the others, right? So remember, it is a relative score. Another thing that I would like to touch on before I get into the review is the condition of my skin. I have combination dehydrated skin. So what that means is that I am oily on the inside and dry on the outside. So a lot of foundations that get a lot of love, actually when I try it, I end up not liking them. It is totally not the foundation's fault. I think it really depends on your skin type. If you have the same kind of skin as I do, then please continue with the video and maybe you'll find it useful to you. But if you have dry skin, you probably can still find that what I feel about the foundations to be somewhat applicable to you, because I generally gravitate towards dry foundations for dry skin because I find that they work better on my dehydrated skin where it doesn't show the dry flakes as much. If you have oily skin, then you probably would disagree with my views, because I generally find that most foundations that work great on oily skin to be a disaster on mine. So today I'll be talking about the Unlimited Glow Foundation, and before I go into that, I think I need to start with the original Uemura Unlimited Foundation. The truth is that I actually bought this like 2 days before this got launched in Singapore, and well, I didn't expect that it would be launched so fast. I saw that it was launching in Taiwan and I thought as usual it would take a few months for it to reach our shores, but surprise, surprise, it came out 2 days right after I bought this one. So I'd like to talk about this one first, and I would try them both side by side for you today. The first thing is that I have held out on buying this foundation for a long time. I look at Instagram, I look at YouTube reviews, everyone is raving about this foundation. How seamless, how natural, how breathable, how comfortable it feels. And I really thought that maybe this is one of those matte foundations that could possibly work for me after so much research. I actually was deciding between this and the Hera black foundation, which is quite similar to this one in the sense of coverage and its finish, right, which is semi-matte. So after reading reviews and doing research, it seems like this one works better on dry skin in not showing the dry parts of your face as compared to the Hera one. So I went for this, and it really showed up every single dry flake on my skin. Like even in areas like the cheeks here that normally would not show up so much, it did, and it was such a huge disappointment. I tried really hard to make it work. I think the best I've managed to get it to work is if I don't set it with powder. Instead of setting with powder, I set it with a setting mist, and it doesn't cake. Not cake. I wouldn't say it's cakey. It's actually dry. It's just dry. It looks dry on my skin. It's not a nice look. I mean, I didn't like it, right? So then, good thing or bad thing, this came out 2 days later, and I had high hopes. I thought it would be everything that the original version promised, but something that would work well on my skin. So excitedly, I went down, bought it, put it on my skin, and I tested it for a whole day, a full working day, and I felt that it was I felt it was cakey. So I'm going to show you some photos that I took. I kind of like discovered that photos actually could show the texture of the skin better. So this is a photo of my face around 4 to 5 p.m. So that's been like 6 to 7 hours of having the foundation on, and you can see that it has started to cake. There's actually patches of foundation around the face that I actually normally don't see. So I was devastated. I really want to make it work, and I tried different ways of applying, and you know what? I think I have found a way to make it work. I discovered that when you, normally when you see people apply foundation, right, and they would press the whole one full pump on the hand, and maybe they would use their fingers and apply, or get one flat foundation brush to apply, and then later use something else to blend it out, right? I think that's way too much foundation for me. So, and I was looking at a lot of Korean makeup artist videos as well. So I discovered that if you just put a tiny bit, I'm gonna try and show you, like this tiny, this much. That's not even like a full pump. You have to press it very gently, and then I didn't buy the Hera black foundation, but I gave in and bought the Hera foundation brush. So this little bit of foundation, and then you do this to spread it across your brush, right? So that it has a very thin and even layer. And I've zoomed in for hopefully you can see before I apply, right? I have all this red stuff here and here. Okay, so it's almost as if I'm applying nothing. That was how little foundation there was on my brush. But I discovered that this was the best way to not have the foundation clogging in the pores and caking up, like really thin layer of the foundation, right? And of course that is not enough, and so I've learned that you have to do this multiple times in very thin layers of very little foundation. So I'm sure if you watched the Korean makeup videos by Korean makeup artists, they always say have many thin layers than one thick layer. I think this is what they mean. Okay, I think I scratched myself here. So And if you want more coverage, I think with this brush you can just press it in. Can you see? Okay, I think to give it more coverage I'll just put in one last thin layer. Okay. So initially I would normally just put a full pump and mix my brush in and everything, soak it up and apply it, because you know, you just get the coverage that you want in one layer. Oh, my eyebrow. But what that does is that it goes into the pores, so when it starts caking. Okay, done. Okay, so this is the Shu Unlimited Glow applied to half of my face. I find that when I apply it this way, it doesn't cake anymore. It doesn't pool in my, sorry, I think like that's my skincare. It doesn't pool in my pores anymore. And however, of course, the coverage is lower than you know, when I would just put on a thick layer. So all the issues that I mentioned, and you know, the photo earlier that I showed you of it caking, I don't experience it anymore, and I just really get this really natural, glowy, almost undetectable, but yet pretty good coverage foundation. Yep. Can you see? Okay. So I am now going to do the same. Oops. The thing about the original Uemura Unlimited foundation is that you have to shake it. I have both foundations in shade 774, which I think is the lightest shade for the yellow skin tone. And for this one, I'm gonna use the, what is this, Petal 55 brush that was invented just for this foundation. Okay, one thing is that, maybe I should, one thing is both are shade, oh, sorry, this is 784 and this is 774, so this is slightly darker than this one, than the matte one. Okay, one shade lighter. So this is the Unlimited, the matte one. Even though I have so many foundation brushes and I love buying new ones, if anyone is looking for a foundation brush recommendation, I will still always 100% recommend this foundation brush. Okay, so same thing. I don't know if you can see, but this is one thin layer. Because the matte one tends to cake on me, so I'm not going to apply another layer in case that's the reason why it starts caking. But I have no primer on, so this is how it looks, the glow and the original one. If I were to look at myself in the mirror, I think it looks a little bit shiny with the lights, but if I were to look at myself in the mirror, it's not that the Unlimited side one is totally matte. There is still some glow to it. But as I said, right, when I just apply it, it's fine. After a while, it's gonna start drying and sucking out all the moisture from my skin, and then it'll start cracking. So I'm not actually going to be reviewing this foundation today, as it's the new one that is more exciting. Okay, so let's go into the details of the foundation and start rating it in the different areas as well, as usual. So for coverage, I think that it is on par with the YSL Touche Eclair Le Tint Cream foundation, the latest foundation that I have reviewed. However, with me applying in such thin layers, I think that the coverage is more similar to this one. Okay, so if you gotta try if you can take a thicker layer of the foundation, and if you can, then you'll be able to build it up to a higher coverage. And if you can't, and you have big pores like me, dehydrated skin, things tend to cake and crack, then you probably will have a similar coverage to this. In terms of pore smoothing, it is actually lower than this. I would give it 1 point lesser than what I gave the Lancome, which I believe was 8, so this one would be a 7. And then in terms of glow, I think it's a very natural glow. It's not as glowy as this one. I still think that if you want something that is undetectable, something that is you know, it looks like you don't have makeup on yet you're just very glowy, this is a very good option. And so in terms of the finish, I would think that it's a natural dewy look, not too glowy. You don't look like the super wet kind of face, like it's bursting with moisture, that kind. And in terms of longevity, I think it lasts pretty well as most of the foundations that I've bought recently. So for longevity, I would give it 8. And then in terms of oxidization, 0. It does not oxidize at all. In terms of enhancing dry skin, I think it enhances just the tiniest bit. So because it emphasizes it a little bit more than my Holy Grail. I don't have it. Sorry, I don't have it with me. My Holy Grail foundation that will never emphasize any dry skin on my face is the Claire de Peau cream foundation. So in comparison to that, and I have tried it, you know, on one on each side as well to compare. It emphasizes slightly, little bit more, so I'll have to give it 1 point just to be fair. And in terms of cakiness, now when I apply in such a thin layer, I would say that it is not cakey at all. 0. I actually went out today whole day. I went to our friend's house. It's a public holiday, National Day, and it, with all the sweat and everything, I actually think it works better when you're sweaty. Actually, it doesn't emphasize any dry skin when you're sweaty, but it didn't cake, nothing, and it held out really well. You know, nothing, the coverage did not reduce even after sweating so much. So yes, that is the low down. So if you have dry skin, I would highly recommend that you don't buy the original one and buy the new Glow foundation. But if you have oily skin and you need it to last, then buy the matte one. Obviously, that's quite normal for all foundations, really. So an initial disappointment became a happy ending, And I also would like to update that in my previous video, I was saying that this was disappointing because it would cake around here. So when I also apply it in really thin layers, it still caked a little bit more than the Uemura one, but the amount of caking and creasing actually reduced a lot. So I think I have learned my lesson that I have to use like probably 1/3 of the normal amount in one pump and apply it in layers slowly. It's gonna take me more time, but I think it's gonna be worth it. So that's the end of my review, and have a good day. Bye, stay safe.